loved working here. They loved working in preschool. They were assistants. They said it's the best place ever. And I took that to heart because I was looking for a fun job, a job that I could go to school and I could go play with children and it would all be good because I did not know what God had planned for me. As I began to learn more in my studies as a child development major and as an appreciator of God's creation of children and families, I began to understand even more how important Los Altos was. The relationships that were built between the children and their teachers, the relationship between the families, and watching them continue year after year because they wanted to be together. But I also grew a fondness and a real understanding for what Los Altos was teaching and the way they were teaching, both in the preschool as well as in the elementary. You see, the purpose of this school was not only to teach children about God and how much He loves them, but to do it in such a way that fit with how God had put children together, how they develop, which was right up my alley since that's what I was learning in college. So it just fit. What was even better was the ability to be able to watch these children actually grow and mature in the way that I had learned about, in the way God had planned. I never thought I was going to be a teacher. In fact, I was saying no. Some of you, I've told my story too. I learned quickly, don't tell God no, because He knew what was best. I stepped into first grade, a little green, no, a lot green. Yeah, I'd had a lot of experience with children in many aspects, but walking into a first grade classroom, actually, it was probably really good I didn't know what I was doing because it made me buckle down. And I really learned what they needed. I knew how to teach it. I knew what their learning styles were. I had learned about that growth pattern of first graders. And so we began there. Fast forward, here I am. That basis has not changed. That basis still continues today to teach children the way God has created them. That spiral of, if you ever heard Mrs. Willie, that of disequilibrium and equilibrium. The growth patterns of how children learn and grow continues on and on. And I believe that not only is that a benefit for children and how they learn, but being here at Los Altos with a foundation and a faculty and staff that love God gives them an incredible opportunity for learning because they feel accepted, they build relationships. You hopefully are building relationships with those people around here because that's how God made us. Stepping into classical education is a shift in language. We're not really changing much in how we do education. It's the intention of what books we're using, how we're reading to children, how we are making sure that children are engaging, which is something we've been doing. It's also a matter of making them loving to learn. That's one of the precepts of classical education, is that learning aspect. It should not be difficult. It should not be a chore. It should be joyful. So that is one of the reasons why we have chosen to step into classical Christian education. We do believe that it's just exactly where we are, only because, and I'll be honest, I've said the word relationship quite a bit, because of COVID, because of the pulling apart and having to stay apart, it changed our society. Relationship is very important. We need to depend on each other. We need to, as families, we need to go to each other when we're having questions and concerns. We need to come together and celebrate. And if we haven't redone that, if we haven't rebuilt those relationships, I encourage you to do that. Make a point to do that today. Because whether you're here at Los Altos or anywhere else, God made us as humans to connect relationally. And that's part of the classical education. It starts with the teacher and the student relationship. Are they hooked together so that they can walk through this year learning the things that we need to learn? That relationship helps the students know they're going to be accepted. The relationship helps those students be able to celebrate with other students because we're a team, we work together. So that is a high point with classical education. We have been, as a school, we have been accepted by Hillsdale College as a curriculum school. It is official. So we are using the Hillsdale curriculum. If you're unfamiliar with Hillsdale, you can look them up, Hillsdale College K-12 program. It's all there. You're more than welcome. There's a great video that might help you also to really understand. I also have copies of Year at a Glance of each of the grade levels that you are welcome to look at and take, and if they run out, because I wasn't sure how many of you were going to come out on this hot evening, if they're gone, then you can just, we'll have a little list, and you can tell me grade levels so that you can take those home. Or you can open up the website, and you can go there and find it. But I'd be happy to make that easy for you. Another bit of reading before we get much further into it is this pamphlet on classical Christian education. I found it easy reading. There's a lot of small articles, and it might also help explain a little bit more and answer more of your questions in a different way than what may happen here tonight. Let me tell you a few key characteristics of schools that follow the Hillsdale Classical School mantra or curriculum set out. One of the things that I want to say about Hillsdale, one of the things that I really was encouraged is that Hillsdale has a plan. It's an excellent plan. They have the Barney Charter School Initiative, and their goal is to support public charter schools that are classical. So that allows lots of students to be able to have this kind of education. It's not Christian, but it is a classical education, and because not everyone can afford to pay for a private Christian school. And so this curriculum that you'll look at is that layout. We're adding our Bible learning, as we always have, and we'll talk more about that. But some of the key characteristics of a Hillsdale classical school. It has a curriculum that is content-rich, balanced, and strong across the 4 disciplines of math, science, literature, and history, liberal arts, and the sciences. Its instruction in the Western tradition through history, literature, philosophy, and the fine arts. It's a study of the American literacy, moral, philosophical, political, and historical traditions. It is explicit in instruction in phonics and grammar. That's really important that our students really learn explicitly when they're learning how to read. And that's what part of the foundation is. That's our job here at Los Altos as K-6. We are that old-fashioned word grammar foundation. It also includes the study of Latin as a requirement for all students. We will talk about that. An approach to instruction that acknowledges objective standards of correctness, logic, beauty, weightiness, and truth. A well-educated and articulate faculty who use traditional teacher-led methods of instruction. A commitment to use technology effectively without diminishing the faculty leadership that is crucial to academic achievement. A plan to serve grades K through 12, even if the school must open with fewer grades, so as to provide continuity and a recurrent examination of subjects throughout a student's career. So I will let you know there has been and will continue to be the leadership here at Los Altos discussing how do we build so that our students will have a classical middle school and a classical high school to go to. We don't know what that looks like. You all know we're landlocked. We fill every square inch of this place. But God has a plan. He just hasn't told us yet. A school culture of moral virtue, decorum, respect, discipline, and studiousness among both students and faculty. That is straight off the website from Hillsdale College. I know that you're probably thinking, well, that's a lot. Pretty heady. But the reality is, what we're going to provide is that foundation. One of the things I want you to consider or continue to think about is the fact that this is a plan for K-12. When the curriculum was designed, they started by looking at where do we want our students when they're done with high school? What do we want them to look like? What kind of humans do we want them to be? What characteristics do they have? How are they going to step out into the world and exist? And so from that came the understanding of where each grade level, and then backing up. Okay, if this is what we want, then we're going to backwards plan all the way to kindergarten. And so that's the thinking behind how Hillsdale has put together their curriculum. I think that's an incredible plan. It's wise. It is what I would want for my children. And it is complete. What do we want for our children as we send them out after 12th grade? We want them to be confident. We want them to be full of passion for whatever God has put together in them. We want them to be ready to think. How do we do all those things? We have to fill them with the information. We know information is widespread. There is not a way in the world that we can learn absolutely everything. But through these foundational years, we're going to take opportunity to tell stories. Children love stories. So do we. Stories stick. When we hear those stories and we understand those fairy tales with the good and the bad, and we begin to understand the logic and the reasoning and the moral story that is there, they keep that. And as we continue to layer as we go through not only literature, but history, God's word, how does that all go together? That is one of the most important parts of the teachers, is to take that information and mesh it together so that we are starting to make connections. Because there's a reason why those stories have morality. What did God set up for us? God created all of us. He created everything. We want our students to know, to recognize what is true. We want them to recognize what is good, and we want to recognize what is beautiful. Those kinds of things are what is so important to us as parents, to us as teachers, for our students, to be able to grow and mature and be able to have those suitcases packed with that information and that knowledge. Because then, as they're growing older, when they come across a problem, then they're going to be able to take that information. Oh, I remember this story. Oh, I remember this situation in history. How do I apply that to today? Was that a mistake? Was that not a good thing to do in history? I guess we need to think about that so that we don't repeat our mistakes. That's why we're making an intentional change to make sure that we are filling our students with things that are true and good and beautiful. I'm sure you've heard the story of how people learn to recognize counterfeit money. They handle real money. They don't look at counterfeit money. They feel it, they look at it, they smell it, they experience it over and over and over again. And that's what we want our students to do. We want them to have so much experience in what is true that the counterfeit is like a blazing light. And that's what the practice is, over and over and over again. So I could keep going and standing on my soapbox. There are lots of things in this book, but let's get down to some question and an answer. Mrs. Whitbeck is going to come and help, so you don't have to just keep listening to me. Also, as you keep thinking of questions, feel free that when we get a chance, we will try and move forward and kind of mesh some things in, okay? All right, we're going to start with more questions about classical Christian education.
So the first question is, what is classical Christian education?
So I hope I've answered that. One of the things, and you're going to hear some repeats, classical Christian education is the pulling together of teacher and student into a classroom to where they can learn to discern, as well as to be in the pursuit of what is true and good and beautiful. We want them to cultivate wisdom and eloquence in their speech and having those discussions. We want them to be confident. They'll be articulate. We want to prepare them for a culturally relevant living. We want them to learn who God is and about human nature, because again, life is about relationship. And if our students understand human nature, they're going to be able to have those conversations, because sometimes we need to speak softly. Sometimes we need to speak loudly, and they need to be able to learn those kinds of things through experience. Humans are complicated. We want them to learn, we want our students to learn about the world so that they can interact with each other. And it's whole learning. It's taking everything and putting it together. So that's a little bit of a concise way of saying what pamphlets and books and lots of people talk about classical education.
So how is this different from what we have been doing?
Personally, as an educator who's been here for a little while, I don't see the difference as monumental. I see it as a revisiting, bringing back what Los Altos was and kind of got interrupted with COVID and how we had to change a few things. I can remember as a teacher reading some of the Aesop's fables to the first graders, reading them books that maybe they wouldn't be able to read for a couple of years, but being able to read to them and get that information into them, to sing through different learning aspects, whether it be math or learning to read or writing aspects, to be able to put certain kinds of things into jingles and song. That is going to be a little difficult for some children because it's different, except I know our students are put together, our children are put together, especially K-1-2, in wanting to sing song and wanting to do these kind of things. I think you have excellent faculty, and as they get older, so we turn it into a rap. So we turn it into, kind of just some chants and be able to do those kinds of things. One thing that I keep using the word intentional, and I think that is one aspect that may be a bit different, a bit more serious, is because I think that we all need to be a little more intentional about how we choose to teach our children, because they're learning all the time, whether they're at school or home or out on the soccer field or wherever else, they're always learning. So we need to take advantage of those kind of moments. We also may need to back up a little bit and maybe not allow so much free expression in certain ways, because they're learning character. One of the things that we have always chosen to do is we've been attempting, especially this past year, hope you noticed, is we spent a lot of time helping the children understand what the character traits look like when they're in action. And those kinds of things will be continuing. We are going to call them virtues. And so it's the same thing. We're just going to translate, again, another vocabulary word for us. So.
Why are we making the change to classical education?
I think when I was speaking earlier, one of the reasons why we're changing is because I do think that we kind of got a little lazy. And we needed to step back into what is important, because what we do, we need to do with excellence. And I do have great teachers, but again, when you don't exercise for a while, you lose your stamina. And so when we went through those couple of years, we kind of stepped back because we couldn't do as much online. That kind of shot us in the foot and put us back a little bit. And so now we're rebuilding our stamina. And that's one of the main things. I will say there is a reason why we are making this dramatic change, because we could have done all of this without changing the school name, without going to uniforms. Because it would have been a simple little thing, we'll just keep doing what we're doing. I just need to get in there and work with the teachers and be a little more intentional. But society's changing. And I may be wrong, but I'm gonna say, I really felt that there were many people who didn't see the difference between Los Altos and public school. I really, really want parents and community members, I want them to see us as different. We are not like the local public school. And there's a purpose, because if we were just like public school, why are we here? And there is a purpose. As I mentioned at the beginning, our purpose, we are a Christian school. We do want to make sure that our children understand who God is and what God has planned for each of us. And that is very important It's important for them for life, not just for school. It is who they are as humans, as God put them together. We also want to stand out. We want to make sure in that aspect, we want people to know we are Los Altos Classical Christian Academy. We are not just like everybody else. We're doing something different. And that really is one of the reasons why we're going to this length to make Los Altos a little bit more, as I said in my video, a little bit more of elevating education, making it a little more important.
Okay, this next set of questions is regarding curriculum. You mentioned more memorization. What does that look like, and what are your thoughts for this change?
I mentioned memorization because I think we've all gotten a little lazy, and I mean all of us. Memorization is for children. This is the easiest time of life to memorize, and we need to use their ability to memorize now when it's beneficial. I have already talked about songs and jingles and poems and things like that. That is all in the classroom, and hopefully you're going to hear some of it once they come home. There might be a jingle on what a sentence looks like. There might be a jingle on remembering some math facts. There might be a poem that comes from one of the pieces of literature. And hearing those words and being able to understand. One of the things that I know that some people are concerned about is, are we adding to the homework load? Our goal, and the teachers and I have talked about this, our goal is to work from 8:30 to 3 o'clock with appropriate breaks, because we can dance those jingles. We can walk those poems. But to be able to use that time here for learning so that when they come home, you can do the things that we don't have time for, which is that longer reading to them, something that hopefully you will enjoy also. Hopefully they will come home and part of their homework will be share what you've memorized today with your family, so that there is that communication with you about what they are doing at school. It is not meant to give concern that you are going to have this much more to do. It's not like the speech meet every week. I know some of you, when they have their speech meet this past spring, have spent a lot of time with them memorizing. That's not our purpose. Our purpose is where it's going to be happening here at school. And I do know that once you start memorizing, the more you memorize, the better you get at it, the easier it is. And so we're going to use that, just how God has put us together. And so that's where we're headed. We'll still have a speech meet because some students, that's where they excel. And we want to try and help students be able to find the things that they are good at. And that's part of what elementary or grammar school is all about, is having lots of experiences, because it is the rare child that knows what they want to do when they're grown up. Because I'm not sure that all those actors, singers, baseball players, football players, and what were some of the others? I don't think they're all growing up doing that, but that's what they say in first grade. And that's wonderful. That's great, because they have a dream. And so let's go with it. But sometimes it takes some college or it takes some life experience to find out what they want to do. And so if we are going to help them at this point learn even more through memorization, that is part of what we are doing.
Okay, the next question is, will more religion be incorporated into the curriculum?
There has always been God's Word, religion. I think of what we're doing as that spiritual growth and that relationship with God. I don't see, we're not going to be doing any less. And can I say, are we going to be doing more? We are already doing a lot. This is a Christian school. That is one of the main foundations of Los Altos, is that our students come and they're going to learn God's Word. They're going to learn God's Word by hearing the stories. They're going to learn God's word by memorizing. They're going to have some conversations about what the portions of scripture that they are reading, what it means. That to me is what we've always done, and we will continue to do that. Again, pulling together is what things are happening in the Bible and what things are happening in the storybook, and how do they fit together? How, or do they? Are they together? Are they apart? We have to learn those kinds of things for them to be able to grow as adults and being able to have those conversations. So I can't say we're going to have more. I think we're going to have as much as we always have. Every classroom has a Bible curriculum. Every child has a Bible. And we're learning to read in it, and we're learning to memorize, and we're finding our things, our verses in there, and we're finding our stories, and we're enjoying what God has given to us.
You answered this already a little bit, but let's just clarify. Will the homework load stay the same, or will it be more or less?
I will answer it again. It is our plan that we not have that homework is not our priority. We really want the learning to happen at school so that what does come home is more of an outflow of what they've learned. And to me, that's what their homework is. Their homework is to have a conversation at home about what they learned today. There's going to be some reading because they need to read. I'll get on my first grade teacher, little soapbox. The more they read, the better reader they will be. And there is no way around it. You can't listen to stories and hope that you can, but that's not going to do it the whole time. They've got to do the work of reading. And part of that is listening to reading. Part of it is reading to themselves. Part of it is reading to someone or someone reading to them. Working with the words, which we'll be doing a lot of at school, no matter what grade level, okay? Because there's so much to the English language. And so our goal, does that mean there's not going to be any homework? There's probably going to be some homework. But our goal is that your students will do their work at school. It's going to take some time to figure that out. Your students are going to have to learn that pace. And so those are things, and everybody's different, and we'll have those conversations. Okay.
Okay. How does a program heavy on memorization encourage students' curiosity?
Hopefully the whole thing is just going to be full of curiosity. The stories, whether it be historical or literacy, the Bible stories, even the jingles. Maybe they will start creating their own. God has put all of us together. Some of them have a little bit more artsy, maybe visual arts or instrumental art or vocal art. Lots of things. God has created incredible human beings. And that creativity can come in a variety of ways. Maybe they're going to take some materials and build something from something that they have learned from their history lessons. That's creativity. They may be recreating something, but again, it's hands-on learning. It's typical of what elementary children should learn, and we're in no way stifling creativity. Memorization is just one of those modes of learning, helping them to remember.
Why has the curriculum not been made available for review?
It's been a long process working with Hillsdale College. They're in Michigan, and it takes a little bit to do that. I still do not have books in my hand, and I've been in communication with them. The teachers have this information that you're going to have an opportunity to look at. We've also discussed other avenues. Some of the curriculum pieces I'm familiar with, so that is why it hasn't been brought out for you to be able to look at a book. Some of the curriculum that we are going to use is a literacy plan that Hillsdale College has compiled. It is an Orton-based program, which is great for many learners, most learners, especially in the younger ages, K to 2. The math is a Singapore math curriculum. Singapore math is highly rated. And it is one of the math curriculums that I was attempting to get us to adopt more than a decade or 2 decades ago. It's used in many schools, public and private, and so I'm excited about that coming and being part of our opportunity. One thing about all of this, too, is if you've been around and you've had conversations about our curriculum before, we have a very eclectic group of curriculum pieces. And because we have done that, our goal has been to teach children the things they need to learn in this same classical vein of long-lasting learners that they will learn for life. And some of it has quite a 19-something copyright date. And so we are constantly reviewing curriculum. But so much of what we are seeing and have been seeing is not as effective. And so we have kept the older works. And so that's another reason why we are reaching out at this point and going with a Hillsdale. I'm excited about the different curriculums that we're going to have. So as soon as they are available, I will be happy to let you see them.
With the emphasis on ancient history and philosophy, are students still going to be taught world history, U.S. history, and state history?
I think that maybe there's a bit of a misunderstanding. There is going to be ancient history in appropriate places, but absolutely the U.S. history, state history, world history are important. But again, remember, excuse me, classical Christian education, we're looking at the plan for K to 12. So we're still grammar school, elementary school, kindergarten through 6th grade. And so we're still doing the basics of each aspect of the curriculum. So yes, we are going to learn about California. That is something that being in California, our students need to learn California. I will tell you, we're going to transition that to 1st grade. There's not a reason in the world why those 1st graders can't learn about our state. But we will make sure that our 2nd and 3rd graders who are moving up to 3rd and 4th have not had that. So we're going to make sure that we fill those pieces in. Learning about our country is so incredibly important. Because we live in America, our students need to understand how our country was formed. If we don't look back and understand and read about the things that the Founding Fathers have done and the purpose, how in the world are they going to understand politics today? How are they going to be able to evaluate what's right and what's not right? And so and our purpose here is not the politics of today. Our older students will have some experience with current events and begin learning how to evaluate those. But for the most part, we're filling them with information, things that have happened in the past, being able to talk about the good and the bad, because not all the decisions that have been made over the years has been the right one, and what happened because of that. Yes, we do need to go back because the U.S. is, 250 years old, almost. And so we need to go back what was before us, and what did those Founding Fathers know, so that we can understand even more. And so that's a lot of what's going in. That's very important.
Does this curriculum leave students at a disadvantage compared to their secular peers?
I'm happy to say I am looking forward to what we're going to see. It is my strong belief as an educator, as well as what I have seen in statistics, is our students are going to excel. They are going to be able to think, not just rattle off an answer. There's two things. One, in this pamphlet, there are a couple of pages toward the back that will talk about SAT rates of classical Christian schools versus other entities. But I want to tell you something I found out. In our quest, Mrs. Whitbeck joined me in my research. We went to a variety of classical schools that are here in Southern California. And one of them is a Hillsdale College public charter classical school in Orange County. They had only been open 2 years. And if you're familiar with the blue ribbon system that gets put on schools, usually you have to apply and do a lot of work and demonstrate excellence. They were granted a blue ribbon school in Orange County Department of Ed, or by Orange County Department of Ed, after 2 years, and they never applied for it because their students had tested so high. That was incredible, because usually the Department of Education does not do that kind of thing. It has been my experience in meeting students who have had classical education, and they are able to have conversations. Our students typically here at Los Altos, and I'm going to go back all the way from when I was in the classroom, before COVID, before the year 2000, and our students, when they would leave us, always went into the classrooms, whether it was another Christian school or a public school, or even going off and watching them going into college, and they did well. Oftentimes, they would go into some of the honors classes, and we would have thought, okay, they're just with everybody else. But they got into honors classes. We had a number of presidential scholars. Now, granted, DNA has a lot to do with that too, and that's all up to you guys. But when we put all those things together and we give children opportunities to learn, and we fill them with the information and the experience of having conversations, of how to ask questions, how to investigate, that's what happens, is they keep that and they use those skills moving forward. So I am excited to see what are we going to see. I know it's going to be excellence.
How does this change support a diverse population of the school?
I hope that God is going to bring us anybody and everybody who wants to be here for a classical Christian education. Diversity just shows God's creation. We are not trying to only have one kind of people here. We want people here who want their children to have an excellent education. We want them to have families who want a community that is going to build relationship. And so I don't believe that there's going to be a problem in supporting our population, and I hope it is diverse. I think that we have worked well with students with needs. I think we have worked well with our students who excel. I think that we as a population are accepting of all races. And I think our students love each other, and it's not because of the color of their skin. It is because of who they are as people. And that's what we want. We want our children to be able to discern the kind of character other people are showing, making good friends, choosing wisely. And so I'm excited about that, and I think that that's what classical Christian education is going to do, help us even more, is to be able to get out there and really deal with some of the things that, some of the playground stuff. Okay, let's go back. What do we know about, and we're going to talk about Jonathan and David, and we're going to talk about Paul and some of the struggles he had because he was standing up for what God wanted. And so we need to talk about those things. We need to talk about why are we choosing, or who are we thinking about, and that character. And that's way more important.
How much technology is integrated and utilized in the new curriculum?
Hopefully, we're not going to change our technology. I think our children need a little bit. I think they need to know that it's a tool. And in 2023 and moving forward quickly, they need to have some experience. But the reality is they need to learn to read. They need to grow their relationships with each other, with their teachers, with their families, with their friends. And those kind of things need to happen away from a screen. And so I still believe that our curriculum is very paper pencil. It's very hands-on. It's very action-oriented. And so the screens are going to take a second place, just like they always have.
Okay, this next section of questions is about uniforms. Why uniforms?
Education is an important opportunity. And we believe that if our students come dressed in their school uniform, their attitude is going to be different, and they're going to be about the work of doing school. It's something that they need to learn for life. Some of us have to wear a certain uniform to work as adults. There's nothing wrong with it. It's also, it's who we belong to. It's the choices that we make. We also want some spirit. We want them to be proud of their school. And so it's another way of saying, hey, we are Los Altos. And everybody has said, are we getting rid of the bulldog? No, we're not getting rid of the bulldog. We are bulldogs. And we want to be that. And we think that having the uniform will help take away the distraction from, hey, look at my cute clothes. And I think the uniforms are kind of cute, but in a different way. But then it also gives them the joy of wearing the fun clothes when they're at home and when they're with family. And we'll still have some free dress. We'll still have we're going to invoke a few more spirit days. And because we should celebrate. School is hard work. We need to celebrate. And we're going to celebrate them and celebrate our school.
How much will uniforms cost?
We are going with Land's End. And that's because they are a quality company. They should be very easy to deal with. They say that if you purchase 2 bottoms and 3 tops, it's about $125 to $175 total. And you can make that lower because we've actually said you don't have to buy anything that's not monogrammed. You don't have to buy that at Land's End. And you can buy just the polos. And the polos range anywhere from $21 to $35, and often they have sales. The bottoms, if you buy them from them, are $22 to $50, and that was me looking on the website today. But they assured me that they do have sales a lot. I will also say that they told us that the school actually will get a kickback from everything that this is purchased through our school website on Land's End. And so that will help. That I'm looking forward to being able to use that to be able to support those who need the financial support to be able to purchase the school shirts. Anything that is shoulder high is what will need to have a monogram on it. Anything lower won't need a monogram. excuse me, of that. And that's what the monogram is on the clothing, is that logo.
So where do we buy the uniforms?
You can buy the bottoms, Target, Costco, online. I'm sure Amazon has some. You can buy them from Land's End. You can use what you've already have. The colors on the bottom are black, gray, and khaki. Okay? Are you interrupting, Mr. Martin? Do you have a question?
What do you mean by shoulder high?
Anything like shirts, jackets, if you order them, that's not mandatory. The jackets are not mandatory. The only thing I'm asking is that you purchase a school blue, which Land's End calls cobalt. You purchase at least one of those polos. If you want them to wear school t-shirts, the Bulldog t-shirts that many of them already have, that's fine, Monday through Thursday. On Friday, we're going to have chapel dress, which will be the cobalt blue polo with black short skirt, pants, whatever. We are saying no jeans. Jeans will be an option on a free dress day. Okay. What else were they? We're not regulating socks. They need to wear socks. We're strongly suggesting that the shoes are just regular athletic. They have to be closed-toed, closed-heeled. We'd love them to be either slip-on, Velcro, or laced, but we're not saying what color they have to be. Okay? Yes, Mrs. Sousa? Yes. As soon as they get our site set up, which that should happen I'm hoping by the beginning of next week, we will send out an email with that information. There's a school number. You'll be able to look up our school. If you go right now, they will tell you we don't exist. They have our logo. They have everything they need from us. I think they need one more paper, but I'll take care of that tomorrow. But yes, it will be that simple to be able to just go online and to purchase that. Okay? Anything?
And to clarify, all polos have to have the logo.
All polos have to
No
have-
more just polos without a logo.
Right. All polos have to have the logo on them, which is why we say the polos need to come from Land's End. The T-shirts, long sleeve and short sleeve, are available in the school office. Outerwear, and that wasn't on the question, but I'm going to go there. Because I know we have AC, and some teachers are hotter and children are not as hot, so sometimes they need to wear a sweatshirt or something in the classroom. Bulldog sweatshirts are available. We also have zip hoodies, which not many people, because it got warm by the time we got them. And so we do have zip hoodies up in the office. We also have adult sizes if you want to help us with school spirit. If it's raining or super cold, they can wear their outer, their heavy coat. What we will ask them to do, and we're not regulating what those look like. I will tell you there's a few things, it needs to be appropriate, as far as pictures and words and that kind of thing. They will wear it to school and it will go into their backpack. Because if it's raining outside, we don't play outside. And if it's cold, that's different, and they'll be allowed to wear their jacket. We also have long sleeve Bulldog t-shirts. They can wear underneath a polo, and that gives them another layer. A plain t-shirt can be worn underneath for more warmth, but the t-shirt has to be tucked in. I'm not saying the polo shirt has to be tucked in, but we don't want t-shirts hanging out underneath the polo. Does that make sense? Okay. I think that was it on uniforms. Sure. Right. Or from Land's End. Yes, and there are some options in Land's End if you want sweaters, like a sweater would have the logo. A vest, if you want a zip-up vest with no sleeves, that could have a logo. That kind of thing. Okay? Repeat the bottoms. Okay. The colors, black, gray, khaki. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. It does not have to be Lands' End. It does have to be solid color. It does have to be uniform style. Shorts for boys, it can be cargo shorts, but they have to be solid color. Girls, skirts and anything short has to be no higher than 4 inches up. We've kind of had problems with that in the past. And I understand they grow fast. They do. And I always tell the girls, if you can put your arms down and you can feel skin, it's too short. And even if they're shorts, they still have to be 4 inches up. Okay? Any questions about, and Mrs. Whitbeck does have a microphone, about uniforms that you want to ask? So you don't feel like you have to scream. And plus, people at home can hear.
Just clarifying, the backpack and lunch pail can be anything.
Absolutely. Again, with reason. And when you get the information about ordering from Lands' End, you will also receive the new dress code. And there are some things about what is inappropriate no matter what day. Okay? And I'm working on hats. I'm working on hats because I know being in Southern California, our kids need to have some shade on their face.
Hi.
Hi.
Is colored denim allowed?
No.
Because my kiddo just tears up uniform pants on the
Yeah.
blacktop.
No denim.
Okay.
Yeah. There are some double need pants. Yeah, I get it. And I totally get it on the playground. But that's what we've decided. Okay, anything else? It can be anything. I'm going to go ahead and answer one more question. But if you have any questions, this is so you can kind of start thinking. Some people asked about our school calendar and our hours. That's not changing. School starts at 8:30 and goes to 3 o'clock, 2:45 for our kindergartners. Our calendar is still going to be the same. You will get a reminder of the important dates very soon. You will also get, in fact, this week, you're going to get a school supply list. I might even send you the preliminary dress code that we've been talking about. It just won't have the Lands' End information. You'll also be getting those important milestone dates that you need to know when we're open, when we're closed, when we have conferences, those kinds of things. I think there's one other thing. Oh, a welcome from me. A supply list for each class. Yeah, we've been working on that, especially teachers are kind of finalizing those. So that'll come out soon. Okay, so that was all of the questions that came into our Google Doc. So now we've got some time, maybe 5 or 10 minutes.
Without having the curriculum yet, what type of training or preparation is occurring with the staff so that they're able to teach this new curriculum?
Okay. I actually have been researching for quite a while, and they have actually been reading a wonderful book. And I say wonderful because it really is, but it takes a little bit to read it, called Wisdom and Eloquence. And it talks about what classical education is and the reasoning behind it. It talks about the Christian aspect, and then it actually goes in and really breaks down each subject matter. And so that's one aspect of how we are training. We will go into, as soon as we get the curriculum, we will meet together. They are very aware, and they want the support. And as soon as we get it, we're going to be sitting down together and really discussing what do we do from here. There's also a lot that happens on the first weeks of school that are a little bit less about curriculum and more about working together. And those kinds of things, those procedures, as we call them, are very important. And those are things, conversations we've already begun. And so it's exciting as a teacher. It's also a little, full of trepidation in some respects. But my belief is that the curriculum is not going to be as different as we all think it might be. So, and I won't stop the support. I won't stop the support just because school starts. That's my job, is to support teachers day in, day out. Okay, yes, ma'am?
Will there be any in-person support from Hillsdale?
Probably, but not right now. That is an aspect of what Hillsdale offers. We are, as a curriculum school, at low level. I probably can send them emails and even make a phone call and ask questions, which as soon as I get the material, I probably will do some of that. The direct help from Hillsdale with their teachers comes if we become a member school. It's a higher level. One thing that is happening is Hillsdale has a wonderful selection of podcasts. Teachers have been accessing those, which also, again, those are conversations about the curriculum, about classical Christian education, and it gives them an opportunity to listen to a fellow teacher in those different subject aspects, and that really helps. What else? Yes, question from our live feed.
Okay, we have a great set of questions here. First, you've covered pretty much, but let me go on ahead and ask it for a summary. How much and what kind of memorization will there be? How much of the whole of their education is built around memorization?
Memorization will be used to help the students learn and remember what they're learning. So it's not that we're going to teach a lesson and then they have to memorize all of it. Every part of the memorization, again, has to be something, some aspect that is good for memory. So it's not that the memorization is the curriculum. It is a strategy to support their learning.
Next, we have a wonderful question. How can we, as parents, prepare our children for the new changes coming this year?
Start reading books that you haven't read yet. Read some of the books that were your favorites as children and start getting them ready. I don't think that the students need to be worried. I don't think that you need to be concerned about changes. I think the students need to know that you've chosen a great school and that they are going to have fantastic teachers and they are going to get to spend their days learning with their friends. And I think that actually is a better use of helping them get ready for school. There is not a reason in the world for them to think that there's a problem or a concern or this may be too hard, because we're in this together. And it may seem too hard until we all work together. Just like climbing a mountain may seem really, really hard. But if we do it together and we take it a little bit at a time, we're going to get to the top.
I've got a question about community. Since building relationships with other families is going to be foundational, will Los Altos set up more school and family get-togethers?
I hope so, absolutely. And if you have ideas of things you would like to do, please let me know. Stop me, send me an email, talk to other people. We've already got on the calendar our back-to-school barbecue, so that'll be there. So start talking to people. I'll get that date out to you this week.
This is more a comment, but really good. Please make teaching your family what you learned each day a homework assignment. And I believe you already addressed that, so that's very cool. Next, will the preschool change at all?
No, we love our preschool the way it is. They are doing exactly what they need to do. They are caring, they are teaching, they are playing. Preschool does not need to be classical because what they're doing is, again, that whole child development age. Mrs. Whitbeck and her teachers are doing a fantastic job, and they just need to keep reading to those children and preparing that environment for learning so that they can just, what I say, muck about and just figure out how things work. And that's what prepares children for coming into more rigorous learning, which elementary school should be rigorous. Okay, and don't let that word scare you. It's just like climbing a mountain. You know, we're going to take it a step at a time, and we're going to use, help if we need to, and we'll get there.
And then the last one right now is, when will the uniforms be available for purchase?
I hope by the beginning of next week.
By the end of next week?
I'm working hard to get that done. Okay? Any more questions?
You mentioned something about Latin education and looking in the booklet. It
Thank you.
talks about Latin education, and I just am interested because as far as language goes, I'm looking into getting my daughter into Spanish
Sure.
outside of school.
Sure.
I'm just wondering how much Latin education is going to happen.
Great, thank you for circling back, because I did miss that. I said I would talk about it later. Latin is an aspect of classical Christian education for a great purpose, and that is for the discovery of the English language and how it's put together. It is absolutely an incredible tool for helping to learn. Our thought at this point, not this year, but probably next year, that's my goal, is to begin Latin in 3rd grade. And that would literally be beginning information, just like you would learn any language. Our goal is not to have fluent Latin speakers. That could happen. It's not a dead language, but it is a very useful language. It helps us to understand how our words are put together so that as they are getting older, and in many fields of medicine, it's very beneficial. And so we're, again, adding one more piece to the puzzle of having our children be able to be incredibly flexible. One of the things I didn't allude to at all was, it seems that the goal of education today is what our children will do when they graduate from high school. What job are they going to have? Our purpose is our children are going to be able to go out into the workforce or into the world, and they're going to be able to do the job that God has for them. And it might be many jobs. I'll tell you a little personal story. I was having a conversation with my oldest, my husband and I were. She had a great education. She was able to have not necessarily a full classical education, but the schools that she was involved in, including Los Altos, gave her enough preparation and a variety of reading and discussion about literature and her math skills that she has been able to get, an accounting degree and a master's in business, an MBA. She currently is working for a plumbing company. She's doing a good job running part of it. But the conversation was about plumbers and about plumbing and jobs. And I have to tell you that she sounded like she knew how to go fix some plumbing. And I thought, the only reason she knows that is because she was able to read and learn something new. It would not have ever been her choice. But because of her education, it made her continue to learn. And that's what we want. We want our students to grow, to constantly be ready and excited about learning something new, which is what takes us into a greater opportunity for our students.
I do have a request from the guy here in the booth with me. If you look at the back of your booklet, it has a sticker with our stuff on it, and there is a new website laclassical.org. And that website will give you a lot of information, and we plan on it being a great website to go forward. Great website to go forward where you can get the information related to schedules and calendars and information and things going on at the school. It already has a calendar for the entire year of important dates and various information on it. So I encourage you to check it out.
Is the report card going to change to be more aligned with the curriculum and what the students are
Yes.
learning in class?
Yes. There won't be that much change, but it definitely, so you get a flavor. It will definitely, it's a progress report. It is our communication through those marked points for you to be able to know how your children are doing. So absolutely. I just haven't tackled that yet. Okay, anything else?
Hopefully this will help with the question. Not only have the teachers this summer read the book together that you mentioned, but through Hillsdale College, we had 11 videos that we watched. There's been an 11-part, like it starts with number 1, which was why this, why classical.
An online class.
An online class. And so we have done this summer an 11-part class, some which is reading, writing, math. So the 11 courses were absolutely wonderful. So I just wanted to say that we're not just jumping in and just reading one book,
Yeah.
but there was also the video series too.
Thank you.
I've taught classical education to my granddaughter. I homeschooled her from kindergarten through 12th grade. I do not have a teacher's credential. Disclaimer. But I jumped in with her even though she had learning issues. And in the 5th grade, she studied Latin for 6 years. It really helped her to learn Spanish. Her math, by the way, the word grammar, I'm sure that that's scaring a lot of you, but your times tables are the grammar of math. Your vocabulary is the grammar of spelling, and it's the grammar of English. All your subjects, your basic things are grammar. Elementary school is the grammar section of learning. And the whole basis is to give your children the knowledge that they need to be able to think for themselves by the time they get to junior high and high school. And I was privileged to see my granddaughter actually do that and to be able to make very discerning decisions as an 8th, 9th grader when she was reading things about the political situation going on in the United States and decisions that were being made in the Supreme Court and ridiculous statements that were made on the internet. And she just sat there and she says, they don't know the Constitution. And so I can vouch for the fact that this is a great way for the school to be going.
All right, anybody else? All right, well, if you think of something, pop your hand up. Mrs. Whitbeck is there. Here's a quote from the Hillsdale website. It says, by teaching students to cultivate moral virtue, classical education guides us into freedom by making us self-reliant and responsible, capable of governing ourselves and taking part in the self-government of our communities. And wouldn't that be nice if all of it worked that nicely? And if we have our students, they're going to add and make it better. Just a reminder up here, am I doing something wrong? Okay. There's grade level K to 6. Yes, you may take them. If they're empty, just tell me. I have paper and we'll write it down so I will email it to you. There is also one stapled packet that has a sample of books by grade level that Hillsdale recommends. And then if you need another pamphlet and you want to hand it to somebody, there's more up here, okay? I thank you for your interest. I hope that tonight has been beneficial. If you continue to have questions, I will be happy to find answers or give you what I know. We're all learning this together. I am excited as an educator. I am excited if my children were still young enough and going to school, this would be the place. So thank you. Let me just pray for us quickly. Father God, I do thank you for this evening. I thank you for each one who's here. I know that you have us in the palm of your hand. I know that this Los Altos Classical Christian Academy, Los Altos Grace Preschool, Los Altos Grace Schools is your school. We thank you for guiding us. I ask that you would just guide these parents as they do that job of being parents. We give you praise and thanks. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you.